Hello, everybody. Now we are going to talk about consumer behavior. This is really one of my favorite areas. It's an area that I have personally researched quite a bit, both in business and academia. So I love this area. It's my favorite. And of course, if you get the chance, if you're a marketing major, love to have you be in either the digital marketing course or the buyer behavior course that I teach, because we do a much deeper dive and have a lot of fun in kind of working through all the elements of the consumer. So going back to what we originally said, we've got these 4 Ps: product, price, place, and promotion. We know there's others. Those are the real ones. Those are the 4 tires of the car. The engine, the main thing that makes it all go, is the customer. It is very, very important. Then, of course, we got all the shiny, cool stuff on top of it: the promotions, the sales, the branding, and all the cool stuff that go on top of it. That make the car look slick and sexy and all of that. But this customer, this is the engine. This is the really important piece of it. So there's this theory of consumer behavior, this economic man. According to this theory, consumers are rational. They're narrowly self-interested, and they're always trying to maximize the benefits that derive from the exchange process, right? The goods for services, for money, or whatever is being exchanged. There is a bit of a limitation here. People are not always rational, as we all know. So that is a bit of limitation of this particular economic man model. Consumer decision making is really, there's a couple of different types. There's this simple decision making, then there's a very complicated, complex decision making process. But it all starts with a need recognition, right? Then we do an information and searching and processing. It may be very fast. If it's simple decision making, like, what pizza am I going to buy tonight? That is very fast. You don't need to do a lot of searching, unless, of course, you're in a new area of town and you don't know what's around. Then you might have to, that becomes a little bit more complicated, but you essentially know what you're going to do there. The identification of alternatives. Again, you may immediately say, I'm going to get a pepperoni pizza, and I'm going to get it from Domino's, and and it's very fast. So that's a simple decision making. I may be in a different town or country or wherever, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to have to search and figure out what there is. There's a place called, Mario's. There's a place called John's Pizza. There's a place called whatever. And we look through all the different things, and then we start to narrow it down. So it really becomes, and of course, complex is usually much more complex when we refer to that. First thing is a need. What is a need? It's a gap between my current state and my desired state. In between there, I have a need that I am looking to be fulfilled with a product or a service. Need recognition. A customer recognizes that he or she has a need. Information search. I'm looking at information, trying to figure out where I can get this need fulfilled. And an evaluation of alternatives is when I'm looking at, okay, I'm hungry, I want a pizza. What are all the places I can get a pizza at? That would be my evaluation of alternatives. Then the purchase. I decide to make a purchase, including where to make the purchase, how to make the purchase, and when to make the purchase. That's all a part of that purchase. And then the post-purchase, this is my reaction. Am I happy with it? Am I mad with it? Did I feel like I got ripped off? Did I get a good value? These are all part of the reaction, the post-purchase behavior. So the needs recognition, which is interesting. The consumer, we need to figure out whether to resolve a particular, problem depending on 2 things. First, we need to understand the magnitude, the difference between what we have and what we want, or what we need, and the importance of the problem. For example, if I have to have a car to get to work, that magnitude may be quite large. Or if I need to buy a new house, maybe something happened to mine and a tornado damaged it and I needed it, there's a big problem. If I just want to have a pizza because I'm hungry, maybe that's a pretty small problem. Marketing, we need to understand that, the problems that our customers are facing, and then activate the problem recognition and figure out how we are going to help them solve that. Consumption, this is using a good or a service to fulfill the need that I have. That's how we fulfill that need. Need recognition. We've looked at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, these 5 areas. Of course, you'll see this again in organizational behavior and some of your other business classes, but we kind of see these 5 layers: this self-actualization, esteem, social, safety, and physiological. Physiological we feel before anything else. Then we move up. Once we have all these basic needs met, then we can go up the ladder and fulfill these other ones. Needs recognition. So we're going to look through these a little bit different. Physiological, basic needs. These are hunger, thirst, and shelter. Safety needs. These are the ability for me to have protection from harm. Social needs, the need for belonging. Community, friendship, relationship. Esteem, this is also ego. They're internal and external in this thing. External self-esteem would be status and recognition. Internal really is self-love, self-respect, autonomy, achievement, self-actualization. This is finding my purpose in life, the pinnacle, right? So, if someone is going on a mission trip, or they're going to climb Mount Everest, or they've written a book, maybe that's their self-actualization, the things that fulfill that need. All right. How to market to need recognition? Well, marketing is an external cue. It kind of points out that there's a deficiency, right? That you're here and you would rather be here. A lot of people may not even know they have a need, right? Some people may be like, I didn't realize I wanted a larger house until I saw, some of the things that I saw on HGTV, for example. I could really use a larger kitchen. I could really use this. So a lot of people, there's that gap, and marketing kind of helps provide that cue. It can also point out where your current behavior is not sufficient. So that's what marketing does. We're really great at pointing those things out. Marketing can shape a consumer's perception of his or her needs. It really can. It can pull out something that you didn't know you need or wanted, and then make you covet those things. And marketers love it when people are coveting items. Then we can kind of swoop in and create an opportunity for them to purchase. Psychological factors. There's psychological factors that are wrapped up in these in the hierarchy of needs, of course. Information search. We talked about the identification of needs, and then the information search. This is a stage where the consumer looks for information on how to fulfill our need, as we previously said. Information search. How does it differ between the consumer and the marketer? The consumer will seek out information from past experiences and word of mouth. 70% of people hear about something from someone else. That it makes word of mouth one of the most tremendous and important assets that a marketer has. It can also hurt you if you have not done a good job of managing your brand with other consumers. Promotions, marketers do this via promotions. They give a consumer kind of a sneak peek into what the brand looks like and how they can fulfill that need. Where do we look for information? Internal search from past experience or memory. External search from information from outside sources. That may be websites. It may be other types of people and things like that. So that is the two different places, internal and external search. How do we market in an information search? I am looking for information. Well, we need to make sure that our information is easily accessible and ready. It's ready and waiting, and it's easy to find, right? If I have a website, if I do a search engine, we want to make sure that we are ranking well and that people can find out that information very quickly. Evaluation of alternatives. Okay, I've done my search. I know that I've got X, Y, and Z as a possible place to fulfill this need. This is where we're looking at the possible options, and we kind of decide what attributes is preferable, right? If I'm going to buy a number of cars and I'm like, hey, there's a Honda, there's a Toyota, there's a Ford, and I start looking at different things, and price is just one of many things that a customer will consider in their evaluation of alternatives. Consumers, an evaluation of alternatives. We develop our own criteria, right? So if I'm purchasing a new car, price may be one of those. Maybe it's leather seats. Maybe it's maybe there's CarPlay, or it's a heated steering wheel, or heated seats, or air conditioning, or whatever. There's a number of different things. A marketer wants to understand, I've got this customer, and these are the things that are really, really important to them. All right. If I'm marketing to moms, and we understand that moms, a third row seat and built-in entertainment system is important so their kids can watch their shows, then we know that. And that's how a marketer would address them. So an evaluative criteria, the product attributes that are important to the customer, right? We just said, maybe it's heated seats, maybe it's air conditioning, maybe it's four-wheel drive, or whatever that's important as evaluative criteria for, buying a new car. So it really depends on the consumer. How to market in an evaluation of alternatives. Make sure they're aware of how well your product matches the attributes they have. This is where we see a lot of companies come up and they say, here, check all the things, and then we'll give you a percentage match on different cars that you like. So if you go to, Carvana or any of those types of sites, they let you kind of match, and they give you a percentage ranking. Is being super close important, or do you mind if it's shipped? These are all sort of things. Pricing, attributes, all of that. Let's see here. A consideration set. Okay, so I've done my information search. I've looked at my alternatives, and now I've got a few that it's between. Right now, I'm like, okay, maybe it's a Honda Accord and a Toyota, Camry. This is my consideration set. What's left after all the unsuitable options are roiled out? Maybe I said, hey, you know what? A Tesla's out of my price range, so I have to do something different. But it would have been until I ruled it out because of that particular option. The purchase decision. This is the point where I choose which product to purchase, where, when, and how, and I'm going to make that purchase. So fairly straightforward there. A consumer. This is how I decide, and I'm going to buy. The marketer, we need to simplify this, and we need to make sure that they're very aware of all of the things that we can do to help them make that final purchase. So for example, if I'm buying a car, the car manufacturer, the dealership needs to be very well aware. Hey, we're open on Saturdays. We can do at-home delivery. You can do all your paperwork online. These are all the ways that we're going to help that person move forward and make that final purchase decision with us. How to market in a purchase decision? Well, we need to assist customers by making it easy so they can actually follow through on it. We need to offer them different options. We need to provide different payment options, financing options, extended warranty, for example, on the purchase of a car. These are all different things that we would do to close the deal, if you will. How to market in a purchase decision. Consider purchasing items with your phone. This makes things more convenient. And we now see that many people are buying cars online. We see the rise of places like Carvana, and local car dealerships are coming up to match that experience. So you can buy online. You can kind of essentially do everything and have it delivered at home. Post-purchase behavior, one of the most important things that marketers must consider, because if I bought it and I don't like it, I'm never coming back. And that's a problem because it's much more expensive to get new customers than it is to keep a customer. So we're very concerned about what that post-purchase behavior looks like. A consumer, they may experience post-purchase anxiety due to cognitive dissonance. This is when I regret making that purchase. Maybe I decided to go ahead and spring for the Tesla anyway. And then a couple of weeks later, I'm like, oh my gosh, what have I done? I've got an expensive payment. I have to install equipment in my garage. I don't know what I was thinking. And now I've associated a negative experience with the entire purchase. A marketer, we need the new customer communications to confirm to someone you made the right choice. You did this right, and providing that personal reinforcement. So we tend to do that, especially on large purchases. That's why your realtors, your car dealerships, and all these folks on large purchases will reach back out and kind of make sure that you're okay, that you did something that you're happy about. External cues. What are these? These are two ways that a consumer recognizes they have a need. That comes from their environment, or it can be an advertisement, right? They may already know, or they may be told they have a need or a want. Top of mind awareness. When someone can recall a brand from memory, if I immediately said, hey, let's go get a sub sandwich, what came to top of mind? Something did. It could have been Jersey Mike's. It could have been Jimmy John's. It could have been Subway. It could have been something else. That is your top of mind awareness, your first recalls. All right. And that's very important. And all marketers would love to be top of mind, because that's the folks that you're going to make a purchase from when you're ready, for an example, to buy a sub sandwich. Reaction after purchasing, the customer will compare that with that experience with what they expected to have and their other experience. So how do you stack up? Are they going to come back to you if you purchased a car through Carvana? How did it work? Were they late? Did their paperwork come in on time? Was there an error? Did you have to struggle to get things done? Or was it seamless and you thought, this is the most unbelievable process, I'm never going back to a regular dealership? These are how people perceive their post-purchase reaction. Where do people get where do consumers get their expectations? Previous experience. Yes. Advertisements, that sets a tone for how people are going to expect the company to behave. Online reviews. I don't know about you guys, but I don't buy anything if I don't look at online reviews. It is rare that I am the first person to buy something and there are no reviews. It have to be an amazing price. And I always look through the reviews on Amazon before I buy something. I want to know good and bad, and then kind of take an average of where most people are and kind of where I think it'll be. Friends' recommendations, word of mouth. number one thing. And promises from salespeople. Oh, that one's not quite as much, but people do want to trust and believe in other people. Desired outcomes of our reaction, our post-purchase behavior, that our service exceeds the expectation. It surprises and delights the consumer, because that is how we get them back. This delight will cause the customer to tell others about it, that word of mouth, and that the experience is going to cause the customer to repurchase from you again in the future. Word of mouth. This is how we've talked about previously. It's a recommendation about a product or service from a satisfied customer, a friend, or a family, somebody that you know. This is what word of mouth is. And it's very, very important. How to market in reaction. We can always find ways to increase word of mouth. We've got to make sure it's the right word of mouth, right? More people are willing, 7 out of 10 people are more willing to share a negative reaction that they've had versus a positive one. So we have to be very careful as marketers. We can work to decrease the possibility of a buyer's remorse by continuing to support and reinforce that the sale has occurred and that they're happy about that purchase. High involvement decisions. These are ones that are very important to a buyer. They're closely tied to a customer's ego. They may involve some financial risk or social risk, and such as things that are going to be in a group here, and psychological risk, where the wrong decision causes a lot of anxiety. If you buy the wrong house, there's a lot of financial and psychological risk associated with that, and so it tends to make people a little bit more reticent, and they're more cautious before they enter into these high involvement purchases. High involvement purchases, they're of greater consequence. So they need a lot more information and a lot more assurances and warranty. So for example, you will see that a lot of homes will say, hey, we'll offer you a home warranty. And of course, car manufacturers will do the same. So that people feel comfortable with their purchase. A low involvement decision, they're very straightforward. There's no list. There's little to no risk. It's repetitive. It's habitual. It's not very important. If I'm going to go out and I'm going to buy a sub sandwich, if it's bad, the worst I'm out is $5 or $10, and I may not go back there again, but it's not going to have a lot of financial or psychological impact on my life. Okay, the low involvement purchase, it doesn't cost much. It's simpler and it's made more frequently. Routine purchases, these are habitual purchases. They're purchased regularly by a person. Something like paper towels or milk or eggs or toilet paper. These are all routine habitual purchases. Impulse purchases that we made with very little thought or planning. They don't have a real specific sort of spectrum in terms of price. Some people will impulse purchase electronics. If they go into Best Buy, they can't walk out without buying the latest gaming console or TV or something like that. Some people in impulse purchases, they're walking through Dollar Tree and they're like, I could use one of those. And it's very, it's a low involvement as well. So think through that. Sometimes impulse is not necessarily cheap. It really does depend on the purchase. How to market for these low involvement purchases? Well, we need to make sure that everything is stocked up. They're available. And then a lot of times we'll give advertising and coupons. We consider those commodity, easily substitutable products. And so a lot of times we'll see promotions and advertising and coupons around them. Who are our different types of customers out there? Well, there are these different generations. The greatest generation born before 1928, they're unfortunately, they're not really what we would consider consumers at this point. They're not out there making these purchases. If those of this generation that are still alive, they're being cared for by others. So they're not really the primary consumer. It's not something that we would really consider. Are there products for this group? Yes. But again, they're not the purchasers of those products. So they're not our primary demographic in marketing. The silent generation, these again are older. Oftentimes they're also being cared for by others. Of course, this was 2016 when they were 71 to 88. So now we are, 6 years later, we're 77 to 94. So again, so you think about where they are, they're usually not the consumer. Someone else is making purchase for them. But the baby boomers, very, very important group of people. They have the most disposable income in this country. They're empty nesters and they're living their best lives. And people love to market to baby boomers, and they're huge. They're a huge generation, like 55 million people or so. Big, big generation. Then you go to a much smaller Gen X generation, and you've got like 30 million people. So whoop, boom, and it slides back in. And then, of course, you go to millennial, which is quite large as well. So it's a real sort of interesting thing when we think about those. But yes, millennials do well, Gen X, and they all have their interesting sort of characteristics as well. Gen X is smaller, but they're in the leadership and the power positions. And certainly they have done well with everything. And they have a lot of disposable income as well, typically. Or what is a business customer? Well, if I'm marketing to a business, another business, these would be companies, government entities, academic institutions like NSU, organizations, associations, distributors. These are all business customers that I might have. What are some of the considerations in a B2B situation? Well, who's going to take part in it? These are complicated often. Oftentimes there's these sort of quotes and proposals and these lengthy sort of things that take place before a company can engage in a large scale purchase. This is not office supplies. These are larger things. How are these individuals going to work together as a group? And who and how is the final decision made to make an actual purchase? Even something like a computer may not be straightforward. They probably have very specific purchasing people, especially for larger companies in IT, and they have very specific requirements. You can have this, you can do this, you can't. They're not just allowing people to go wild and free and making those sort of decisions for themselves in a company. The complexity of B2B buying, timing, technical specs, and the organization itself. A larger organization will make it more difficult and lengthy to make those purchases and make those sales to them. A smaller, more nimble organization, you often have a little bit more flexibility, but a lot less budget. So there's a bit of a trade-off there. This, folks, has been a very quick introduction into consumer behavior. I appreciate your time today, and I hope this was helpful, and I will see you in the next